Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome to another Q&A video. Today I'm just going to be answering some of the questions you guys left on my last Q&A. If you guys do have any questions at all that you do want answered on my next video, make sure you guys leave them down in the comments. So with that said, let's hop right into some questions. So for our first question, Mario would like to know who is the hardest champion to main in League. So when it comes down to mechanics, I definitely have to say that it would be Lee Sin. It's a lot harder to pull off his combos than the majority of champions in League, so yeah, Lee Sin would be a pretty good pick. Another champion that is pretty hard that has a lot of skill matches would be Riven. Pretty much everybody says Lee Sin when they do answer this question, but a really good alternative would be Riven. Next, Cameron Morera says, "Hey Noxro, I'm a mid laner and usually choose mages rather than assassins. What should I do to prevent my opponent from getting the jump on me if they are playing someone like Zed?" Now with certain mid laners, you can't even really stop this unless you are somebody that does have crowd control. Therefore, if you are playing a mid laner like Ryze, the simple answer would be to crowd control them and start kiting. If however you are one of those high damage mages that don't actually have crowd control, then you're going to have to position very safely under your tower and just passively farm until you can combo them down and one-shot them. Of course, if the Zed is doing rather well, you will have to make sure you get a Zhonya's rather early on because sometimes you just can't stop him from comboing you. Next here, Tim O says, "You said you played since the game came out. What is your favorite nostalgic moment?" I played for 7 years. My nostalgic moment was the old AP Master Yi, broken but fun. So yeah, I do remember the old AP Master Yi as well, with that one-shotting Q that reset over and over again. It was pretty busted and it was definitely fun. Now for my favorite moment, however, it was my first pentakill. I still remember it to this day. It was me as Olaf, basically just running it down mid and landing my axes when I was really fed and tanky. That is just one of those League of Legends moments that I will never forget. So for the next question, Noah Gonzalez would like to know what the 5 best mid laners are right now. So one first easy answer would definitely be Swain. He is really busted in both the mid and top lane, and he is a champion that honestly probably needs some nerfs. Both his damage and tankiness are pretty insane at the moment, and a Swain that is ahead of his opponent can even tower dive his opponent, and there's not too much he can do about it. Another really strong mage at the moment that always is going to be pretty strong in the meta no matter what is Anivia. She's a champion that's really easy to farm on post level 6, and she can output a ton of AoE damage. She is one of the best team fighting mages out there, and she is at least somewhat forgiving. Now she doesn't have a lot of mobility, but her passive is pretty forgiving. Another mid laner I would put in the top 5 that is becoming rather strong with the item changes would be Cassiopeia. The Seraphs gives her a lot of mana that allows her to spam throughout the lane phase, and she does a lot of damage. She has great 1v1 potential, she's able to hyper carry in the later stages of the game, and she's deceptively tanky at the same time with that Seraphs. Another mage I would throw into that top 5 would be Rengar. He is a champion that's able to one-shot carries even with just his ultimate as long as he stacks his passive. His counterplay box is also insanely strong as well, and if you get it into the right section in a team fight, you will have a very strong team fight. Now those are the 4 mid laners I definitely put into the top 5, and this last one is definitely debatable. You could easily throw in something like a Fizz or an Ahri, maybe Brandy, Velkoz, or possibly even Zilean. It's honestly kinda hard for me to decide on that 5th spot. The top 4 is pretty obvious to me, but this last selection, I'm not too sure about, to be honest. So let's move on to the next question, and we got Clement Law asking, what top lane champion should I learn to extend my champion pool, somebody I can carry with? So for a top laner that can carry, I would recommend either Kled or Camille. Both of these are champions that make very strong split pushers and can definitely hard carry games. If you're looking for a really nice engage, I would go with Kled for that movement speed ultimate, but if you really want that 1v1 potential, then I would go Camille. Now for the next question, Theo Son asks, I want to ask if Brandy is best in mid or in support and any advice for the best counter to him. Now the thing about Brandy is he is fantastic in both the mid and support roles, so honestly I don't really think there is one that he's better in than the other. He is a very strong pick in both mid and support. Now as for the best counter for him, definitely a Locket. That AoE shield can negate a lot of his ultimate, and if you don't have a Locket on your team at any point in the game, his ultimate is going to be devastating. Other than that, of course, if you are a tanky champion, you will want some sort of magic resist, but make sure your team has a Locket. Next here, Steven Tan says, why do you choose Blue Smite mostly instead of Red Smite? I've seen that in most of your games. Isn't Red Smite better for snowballing? Now you are definitely right about the red smite. It is pretty strong for snowballing, and it's great for champions that can easily stick onto their targets so they can do a lot of extra damage. The thing about the junglers I play though is that their ganks aren't the strongest, especially in the early game. Therefore, I will pick up that blue smite so I can actually stick onto my targets so my ganks can be at least somewhat successful. If the champions I were playing can easily stick onto their targets and are great duelists, then I would be going for red smite. Next here, RKJD3930 says, what do you think of the new Swain rework? Well, if I'm going to be completely honest, the Swain rework made him too strong. He is a champion that if he gets a lead, he can tower dive his enemy over and over again, and there's very, very little they can do about it. His damage is absolutely nuts, and he takes almost no damage at the same time. He's also got tons of CC as well, so he makes a pretty strong teamfighter at the same time, and honestly, his kit is just a bit too strong. If you're asking me this question because you want to see if Swain is a viable champion, the answer would be hell yes he is. Next up, Fun Art Dude says, what do you think about top lane Trundle? Is he strong versus the meta champions? Now Trundle at the moment is one of the top laners with the lowest win rate. Therefore, off the top, I would definitely have to say he's not strong in the current meta, but he does have his place still in League. If you are against a very tanky lineup, then Trundle of course will still be a pretty decent pick. However, in the current meta, that doesn't happen all the time, that's for sure. He's not the greatest in the current meta, but he still has his place. For the next question, Grouchy Germ says, which AD carry and support is good in Season 8? Well, there are definitely a lot of them. There's not one single champion I could say, but right now Jinx is really strong in Season 8, and she's a champion that wasn't the greatest before. Other champions like Sivir are also making a really good comeback in this season as well, so Sivir is a very reliable pick at the same time, and Varus is definitely one of my favorite champions. Going for that Ginsu's and on-hit build is also incredibly strong on Varus, and he's a really nice champion in Season 8 as well. Now, as for the support side of things, Janna is a champion that's always going to be strong in the meta, pretty much no matter what. Sion is then a really strong pick as well if you are looking to all-in the enemy champion, and even things like Xerath are very pokey and great support picks as well. Of course, as I previously talked about, Brand is a really strong support and a great mage pick at the same time. There are of course many other viable support champions out there, but these are a couple of my favorites. Next here, Hindset says, what do you think about the Rengar rework? Hype for Swain rework too, and do you play Osu? If not, try it out. I think you can improve your aiming and lol by playing this game. What are your thoughts? Also, love you, Senpai. So as for Rengar, I don't think he's the best champion at the moment. He does have a pretty low win rate as well. Now, of course, he is great at one-shotting carries really quickly, but he's not the strongest in the current meta. As for that Swain rework, yeah, it's incredibly strong, and he's a very busted champion. Now, as for Osu, I've never tried the game myself, but I have seen a lot of friends playing it, and they do say it's a great game. It does seem like one of those games that could improve your aiming and reaction time, so I do think it definitely has a great place in improving your league skill, even though it's not the same game. I have thought about trying it, but haven't yet. Ahmad Freyhat says, I mastered Miss Fortune, but I think she's a bit weak. Any advice? Well, Miss Fortune is a champion you should be finding really strong in the early and the mid game. Therefore, you're going to need to bounce those double ups onto your enemies and chunk the crap out of their health bars. As long as you can position properly and you do have a black cleaver, your ultimate is also very devastating. It will shred the entire enemy team's armor and allow you to have a pretty successful team fight, so in the later stages of the game, that is what you should be looking to do because your auto attacks by themselves are not the greatest on Miss Fortune. Next here, Lizard Master says, what is your opinion on Velkoz? So my opinion is that he is a very long range champion and he is very annoying to fight in either the mid lane or the bottom lane. He's even fairly strong against the tankier targets as well, and he is pretty strong in this current meta. The one thing you will have to be careful of though is his lack of mobility. He does a ton of damage and has good ranges, but you have to make sure you position properly because if assassins get on top of you, see why outside. John Doe says, what do you think of the new champion Caixa and also the removal of the Tracker's Knife? So as of right now, I think Caixa is definitely too weak at the moment and she does need some tweaking. I would say her kit will allow her to be a really strong champion, but she definitely needs some tweaks onto the numbers of the abilities. Now as for the Tracker's Knife, it was a bit triggering because if I did play something like a Maokai, I really like to go for Tracker's Knife when I was jungling so I could provide more vision. I did like the item and I took it from time to time, but now that it's gone, yeah, it's a little bit triggering. And for the last question here, I've got Bradley Beaver saying, what is your thoughts on Shyvana? She is my main and I'm looking to start trying ranked, but I'm unsure of where she sits in the current meta. So Shyvana is a really strong jungler, and I'd say she probably fits into the top 5. She can fit both the hard carry and the tanky role, so she is a pretty solid pick, and she can get some early dragons and allow your team to snowball even that way. She's a champion I play myself sometimes because she is incredibly strong, and I do think I have a 100% win rate on her at the moment with like a 10 KDA. She's a really good champion. So that's all the questions I'm going to answer for this video. Sorry if I didn't get to your question. I answered all the most upvoted ones, so if you guys want to see a certain question answered that is already asked in the comments, make sure you guys thumb it up. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching the video. I really do appreciate it, so take it easy, have a good day, and peace.